Hi, hello, vanakkam, and welcome back to yet another episode on your favorite Little Law YouTube channel. So today in this video, we're going to see about another performance engineering topic or a performance engineering solution. So this is one of the questions which I have received from one of our subscribers. So the question goes like this: we all know any application that we use or any application that is built in the web world. So they are being a part of multiple components. So they are integrated by multiple components. So for example, we have an application server, we have a load balancer, we have the web servers, DB servers. So the question here is how to figure out where the issue persists. So this can be again your interview question, or this can be even part and parcel of your daily day-to-day performance engineering tasks. Like you have multiple components, so you might be wondering where exactly I'm getting the issue. Is that in the app servers, or is that in the application flow, or is that with the load balancer, or is that with the web server or DB server? So today in this video, I'm going to take you through 5 simple steps to find and fix this issue. And in fact, we will even look into it in detail in our next videos, but this is going to be our first video on how to deal with these kind of issues, because you might actually expect these kind of questions in interviews, right? So for this question, what will be your answer? Like how will you handle this issue, or how to figure out where the issue persists, right? So moving to the first step, let me start. So the first step of this is define and isolate the problem. So we have to identify the, so we have to find the symptoms. So the symptoms identification is the first and foremost step. So we have to clearly define the problem. Is that the issue is a slow response time, or is that application is getting crashed, or is that any data inconsistency issue? Because overall, if we see, the issue looks like the application fails, or like there is a high response time. But when you see the symptom into more detail, you might be facing all these issues, like whether it's a slow response time, or whether it's a application crash, or is that a data inconsistency issue, right? So when coming back to the scope determination, so we have to determine if the issue is affecting all the users or a specific subset. And also we have to check if it is consistent issue or if it is an intermittent issue. So intermittent is something like it will happen some point of time and then it will not happen at the other time. So that is the intermittent issue. So we have to determine if the issue is affecting all the users or a specific subset, or if it is a consistent issue or an intermittent issue. So that's the second point. And then coming back to the third step, I mean the third task in your first step, which is the initial isolation. So we have to start by isolating which component might be causing the issue. For instance, if all the requests are slow, the problem might lie at the load balancer or at network level. If only specific actions are slow, then it might be the web server or the database. So by isolating it in the initial level, it will be easy for us to drill down and to find the issue. So for example, like let me again reiterate. So for instance, if all the requests are slow, the problem might lie at the load balancer or network level, or if only specific actions are slow, then it might be the web server or the database server issue. So now moving on to the second step. So in the second step, we have to collect and analyze the logs and metrics. So when it comes to the log analysis, we have to collect logs from all the components, especially from the load balancers, from the web servers, from the application servers, and even the database servers. And we have to look for errors or for any warnings or any timeouts. So by doing this, we can do the analysis on the logs. And then when it comes to the metrics monitoring, so we have to use monitoring tools. It can be any tools. It can be like Grafana, Prometheus, and using that, we have to review the metrics such as the CPU, the memory usage, the disk input output, the network latency, and the request rates. So all these will give us an idea like what is happening in the system. And finally, the correlation. So initially we did collected the log analysis, and then we did collected the metrics monitoring. So now the second step, in the second step, we are going to do the correlation. So we have to correlate the log entries and metrics. So the first step we collected the log metrics, and in the second step we collected the metrics. So we have to correlate these values to specific time frames when the issue occurs, and we have to look for any anomalies or patterns. And then moving on to the third step. So in the third step, we have to conduct component specific diagnostics. So if it is a load balancer issue, we have to check if the load balancer is properly distributing traffic, and we have to look for high error rates, failed health checks, or for any misconfigurations in the routing tables or in the routing rules. And if it is a web server issue, we have to verify the server performance. We have to check for high CPU or memory usage. We have to check for the thread or if there are any connection pool exhaustion that's happening, or for any long request processing time. So we have to monitor all these in, if it is in the case with the web servers, and if it is the issue with the database servers, we have to investigate the slow queries. We have to look for the lock contention for any high disk input output and resource saturation. Also, we have to utilize the query performance tools like application performance management, which is the APM solutions. So by doing all these, we can conduct a component specific, this is something like a component specific diagnostics, because if we are doing these level of component specific diagnostics, it's very easy for us to correlate the issue, and then it will be easy for us to fix that issue. So that's the reason we have to do the diagnostics from the component specific, or in the, from the component level. And then moving on to the fourth part, which is perform end-to-end testing, perform end-to-end tracing. So we have to do the distributed tracing. So we have to implement or review distributed tracing if available. Like for example, if you have like tools like Jagger or Zipkin, so we can trace a request from the entry point, that is from the load balancer, through the web servers, the application logic, and the database interaction. So this is possible using tools like Jagger and Zipkin. So if you have access to it, you can do this distributed tracing. And then when it comes to the bottleneck identification, so we have to identify which component or stage of the transaction is causing the delays. Also, we have to look for long gaps between the service calls or high latency in specific stages, and this will be very helpful for us to do the identification of bottlenecks, or for the bottleneck identification. So that is the one best way to fix the issue, that is to perform end-to-end tracing. So by doing this, let me again reiterate. So we have to implement, or we have to review the distributed tracing through the web servers. I mean, like we have to trace a request from the entry point, that is from the load balancer, through the web servers, app servers, which is the logic servers, and the database interactions. And then after doing all these, we have to identify which component or stage of the transaction is causing the delays. And also we have to look for long gaps between service calls or high latency in specific stages, and that is the step 4. And moving on to the last step, the step 5, where we have to validate our findings and we have to implement the fixes. So when it comes, so in this final step, we have to do the hypothesis testing, where based on the gathered data, we have to form the hypothesis about the root cause, right? And we have to test all these by recreating the issue in a controlled environment if possible, and then we have to fix and monitor, that is, we have to apply the necessary fixes, and this could involve configuration changes, code optimizations, infrastructure scaling, or even database indexing. So we have to do all these. By doing all this, we can, firstly we have to fix these, and then we have to do a monitoring of this issue. And then moving on to the very last final part, which is the continuous monitoring. So after applying all these fixes, we have to continuously monitor the system to ensure the issue is resolved and no new issues arises. Also, we have to validate improvements with performance tests and for any user feedback. So these are some of the ways where we can, or we have to we can use these techniques to find the issue, and then we can fix it. So some of the best practices for future prevention, which is we have to do regular audits. So by doing regularly auditing and by updating the configurations and the code, we can ensure that there is an optimal performance all the time. And then by doing proper capacity planning, which is by conducting thorough capacity planning and stress testing, to prepare for peak loads. And then when it comes to the automation and alerts, so we have to implement automated alerts for unusual patterns or threshold breaches and performance metrics. So by following all these steps, we can systematically identify and resolve issues in complex application flows, and by ensuring smooth and efficient operation. So I will in fact will go through all these individual steps in the next video. Like I will take you through how to do the defining and isolating the problem in 5 different steps, and then I will five progressive steps, and then same way I will deal with all these problems into much detail so that you can understand a lot more. And I believe this video would be very, very useful to you because I have shared you a lot of information on how to fix or how to face an issue whenever you get to know that there is a bottleneck in the performance of the application. So until I meet you in another interesting video, it's bye bye from us and your favorite Little Star YouTube channel. Bye bye.